Welcome back to Ginger Kid Outdoors. Today I've got out my Shiny White Retro by Farmer Rain. This is a Swedish manufactured jacket. In honor of that, I'm going to be going over the Finnish. I guess they're right next door, but Finnish Mosin model M39. Now this was originally done after a 9130 that would have been captured from their independence when they broke away from Russia. They took a lot of their rifles that were 9130s and the earlier variants of that even, and they redid them. A lot of the Mosins are going to have a hexagonal receiver on them, and that is pretty much the only thing they kept from that original Mosin rifle that were captured. They kept the bolt and they kept the action. They came out with a brand new barrel, which you can see sits a little bit shorter. It's a heavier contour and shorter to improve the harmonics of the barrel. Coming back from there, they went over a whole different style front end cap attachment. They've got a bayonet lug to use a Swedish knife style bayonet that they have. They've got sling swivels on the bottom and then again on the sides. I've got my my leather sling here set up. This is a reproduction. They used an Arctic birch stock on it rather than this semi-laminate stock that the Russians usually use. They used wider dimensions for the buttstock and the forearm, and also up around the barrel band as well. They also went with a nice pistol grip style stock on it. From there, the biggest addition that they made was on these. They went with a windage adjustable front sight where it just uses a flathead screwdriver to drift this sight back and forth. And then from there they went to a not a fully adjustable, but a ladder style rear sight that still maintains 150 meter to 2000 meter. And then from there you've got graduations from the 1200 meter all the way up to 2000. They went with this style over the Russian, which had more, it's less fine. It's more of a coarse adjustment on it. The sights on the M39s are touted up to be a much more accurate sight system than what is on the Mosin, the regular 9130, the Russian model. So, and the nice thing I noticed on this one, that they went and ground off all other Russian markings that were on these receivers. Again, this is a hex. This one is the more common round receiver that came later after, I'm assuming the Russians lost a pile of these, went away from the hex. The rounder receiver is going to be easier to manufacture, so they ended up going with that. So I guess next up, did a little bit of a talk on it. The other thing they did on this, I should mention, is the entire bottom metal. They completely redid the entire bottom metal to have less likelihood of rounds jamming when feeding. So they really did go over every aspect of this rifle and improved it from what Russian deemed as being perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with this rifle, and apparently the Finnish military found all kinds of issues that could be upgraded on it, and did so on all of the rifles that they captured. Coming up next, going to do some shooting with both of these rifles, and hopefully there's a little bit of a difference in recoil. This is a little bit lighter weight than what the Finnish Mosin is, so hopefully that will translate a little bit and maybe recoil. It is fairly cold out today. Still looking at a little bit below 20 with the wind chill. It's down in the single digits. So I think that is a fitting temperature to have some Mosins out, because these rifles were known for what they did in winter months in both Russia and in Finland. Okay, got 5 rounds loaded up in the magazine on the Russian Mosin. I am shooting, Celler and Bellet 180 grain soft points. We'll go ahead and shoot 5 rounds and see what kind of recoil we get from it. previous empties. One thing's for sure, I don't have to worry about the barrel probably heating up much today. Gotta just, there we go. It is a little difficult trying to find the center of this target. Now, sometimes what was happening was the bolt, when I would go to pull it all the way to the back, would come right out. I think that might be a issue with the cosmoline that is still inside this rifle is staying a little bit gummy in this colder condition. I mean, usually I don't have any issue with it. Probably once she gets warmed up from firing it some, it won't do that as much. But okay, as I mentioned, that's 5 rounds that I fired off here with the 180 grain Celerin pellet. Next up, I'm going to go to the Finnish Mosin and do some shooting with that. Five rounds loaded up in the Finnish Mosin. Now this features a 2-stage trigger, so there'll be a little bit of pickup in the first stage, and then the second stage will have a wall, just like traditional 2-stage triggers. A wall will pick up, and then you hit that wall, and then you'll just pull through it. Trying to be careful not to lose any of this brass, because it is in fact brass casing. The last time I shot these rifles, the only thing I could find anywhere, I should say, this is brass casing. The last time I shot these rifles, the only thing I could find was steel case. So I am trying to save my brass casing, so that way if I need to or want to, I can reload it. Personally, I don't feel any difference in the recoil between the two of them. Even going from a steel butt plate from a rubber plastic thing that's on that other one. I do know that the 7.62 by 5.4 Russian is not anything you want to shoot all day long. Last round. Oh, that's rattling. Okay. Okay. As I mentioned, this has got, just to show, rifle is empty. And that smell, you can smell the powder that Celerin pellet uses. Smells pretty decent. So this is a 2-stage trigger. You're going to have a lot of take up in the beginning. That's basically to give you a little bit of play before you're actually going to get back to your wall. And then from there, the wall, I'd say it's probably about 4 pounds. 4 pounds or a little under. For a military trigger, that is really decent. Yeah. Yeah, when the Finnish went and redid this, the actual just using the action. That was the only thing that they had left on this thing when they got done with it. It really goes to show that they know what they're doing. And this rifle was actually redone by Sako. So this is a Sako M39. There was Sako, Tika, and I believe there was one other one that was redoing a lot of these rifles. So I opted to go with the Sako. When I bought this one, this I got for, probably around $350, I think, when I bought this. About that same time, the 9130 you saw was going for 100 or a little over. So I mean, this was, easily twice the price of what the 9130 is, but I think it's more than twice the gun of what the 9130 is. If you can find any of these anymore, definitely pick them up. I mean, I think even now, I think the last time I looked at them, they were around 600 they wanted for them. So very sturdy built gun. We'll go down next and see if I even hit the target on them, because I don't, like I said, the last time I shot these, I was using 147 grain Tula steel cased ammo, and this is 180 grain brass cased, a little bit higher end ammunition. So we'll see if I'm even on a regular sight and target at all with either one of these two rifles. My target up here is going to be with the 9130. This had 10 rounds total fired at it, because when I fired the first 5, I did not have the camera running. So I fired another 5. This is probably close to an 8-inch group. 1, 2, 3. Probably by the time it's all figured out, probably close to an 8-inch group. That ain't too bad. Kind of, I'd say, probably more people could shoot it a Mosin a little bit more accurately. Now this one down here is the Finnish Mosin, and that is probably within I'd say about a 4-inch group here. Both of these groups were shot at 100 yards. It is real hard to try to see what the center of the target is at 100 yards, but I would say elevation wise, it's not too far off. Now the way you actually adjust the elevation on the Finnish Mosins is each one of those front sights, either on the side of the sight or on the very top of that ramp, is going to have a number stamped into it. Mine says 86. What that is 8.6 millimeters in height, that front sight base is. Now if I wanted to go with something to probably get a little bit closer to being on target, I'm going to need to go with a little bit shorter, so I'll have to look for like an 8.4 or an 8.2. That will actually allow the point of impact to raise. That is how you adjust the front sight on a Finnish Mosin. Now that one's shooting really high, so what I'd have to do there is completely replace the front sight on my Russian Mosin, because that was filed down. That was about the only way that I know of that you could actually do it. And there are a whole bunch of pretty interesting front sights you can get for the 9130s now. What they do is they have like the regular globe style front sight, and they mill out that post that's in the middle. And what they do is they put they tap it, and then they put something that you can actually increase for windage on there. And then you've got elevation, I should say, you can increase. You just screw it up and down to increase or decrease the height of that front post, and then you have a drift adjustable windage on it, which is what's standard on the rifle now. So my Finnish Mosin, I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments to it in order to get it closer to center, and then I'll probably go on eBay and see if I can find an 8.4 or an 8.2 next. I actually wouldn't mind having some different front sights, just some option to change them out and go to something a little bit different in case I want to get into like hand loading. That was the interesting thing with all of the Finnish soldiers after their War of Independence. Once they went into like the Winter War, Finland decided it was easier not to supply the individual soldiers with loaded ammunition. They gave them the little hand presses, powder, primers, cases, and bullets in order to reload their own. So you had, I would say, probably an even better degree of accuracy, because those individual soldiers were probably catering what they had for their loads to their own preference as to what their rifles shot. So that's a huge difference between the Russian military, just you get a rifle, you get ammunition, that's it. The Finnish took this like basically one huge step farther. So that is a pretty real smart idea in order to kind of make sure your soldiers have what they need, but also going to the aspect of you don't have one spot that's got loaded ammunition, like an actual manufacturing facility. Sure, they have that, so they can do like bulk ammunition, kind of like issues like that. But now all of your individual components are spread all over the entire country. So that makes it logistically a lot harder to try to take out one spot. Now you got to try to go to everything. So that was pretty smart on the Finnish aspect, in my opinion. So, as I mentioned, front sight is a little off to the, it's going to be impacting to the left-hand side. In order to figure out that, what you want to do is figure you got your rear sight here. I always use a peep as a reference. If you want, you could use like the little notch. So if you're going to be adjusting it, I want to adjust it a little bit more off to the left-hand side. So I guess you want to chase the group with the front sight. See if this will work. A little bit of a turn and then tighten up that side you just loosened up. Okay, now get out 5 more rounds. Go 5 more rounds and then we'll see how we're doing. Make some more alterations. Let's see if I can hit my target at 100 yards. Steel target. Oh yes. You can hear how hard that round hits. Five for 5, good time to quit. Not too bad. Looks like I've got 3 rounds that impacted there at around 1 inch. Another one was a little bit over to the right, and then another round there. The 5th one was pretty close to center mass on the target. Again, I mean, the front sight on this rifle does take up probably about that much of the target when you're looking at it from range. This is set out at 100 yards. Of course, all of the sights on these are basically doped out for meters, because the first set on this was 150 meters is the lowest you can get it adjusted down to. So I do need to go with a different sight, since everything is impacting, different front sight, since everything's kind of impacting a little low. But I also do not know what the original grain weight was for the 7.62x5.4 for the Finnish military. So that's some more research I got to do. But yeah, shooting against a contrasting red target is a little fitting for a Finnish rifle. So that's pretty much going to conclude the video here on the Finnish Mosin model M39. What I got on today is my white retro by Farmer Rain and some rain jeans. I figured to pull out some Swedish made jacket and pants to go along with a Finnish made rifle. Keep it kind of in the Scandinavian area. But other than that, if you're looking for any good waterproof gear, go to farmerrain.com. I have no problem supporting those guys. They've really become good friends of mine, and just noticed that my front sling band is starting to slide up too. Have to probably loosen that up and tighten it back up. But yeah, again, Farmer Rain, definitely a great company to go with. Nothing through Farmer Rain is Chinese manufactured. All the clothing that they sell is either made in Sweden or in Poland. So if you're looking for something that's good European manufactured clothing, definitely check out Farmer Rain for anything for waterproof gear, raincoats, rain jeans, pants, bibs, you name it. If you work outside and you need some decent clothing, definitely go to farmerrain.com. But with that, this is going to conclude today's video on the Finnish M39.